The sun rose in the morning, gleaming off the chrome trim of the Maplewood diner, where the familiar smell of butter and syrup normally enveloped each visitor in comfort. But today, that heat couldn't reach the cold that settled within. By the window was a wheelchair-bound young girl, Clara, her pancakes in front of her like a precarious shield against a world that wasn't always so gentle. Her face held quiet strength, the kind born of too much too early, but her shaking hands betrayed the fear she worked so hard to conceal. At the next table, a clique of teenage boys laughed, not the friendly kind, but mean-spirited, biting. Then one of them did the unthinkable. One of them slapped Clara's plate onto the floor, syrup splattering the tile. Another pushed her wheelchair back, taunting her inability to move. The diner went quiet. Laughter was more audible than the crash of breaking plates. Clara's eyes welled up with tears. She struggled to keep them at bay, but shame sears deeper than hurt. If you think kindness needs to always win over cruelty, that everyone should be treated with respect, regardless of who they are, take a moment to like this video, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Let's spread love together and remind the world that compassion is greater than hate. Clara's existence had never been easy. She had been born with a condition in her spine and had used her wheelchair since she was a child. But her parents had always told her something lovely, that her spirit was destined to fly, though her legs were not. And yet, despite believing them, the world seemed to challenge that belief on a daily basis. Each day brought stares, whispers, and condescending smiles from people who could not conceive of her strength. But that morning in the diner, this was not the same. This was not cruelty blunt enough to bruise the soul. The boys laughed harder, boasting of their teasing, as the rest of the diner hung in stiff silence. The waitress, her hands shaking around a tray of coffee mugs, did not dare stir. Clara, striving not to weep, reached down to gather up her spilled pancakes, desperate to maintain her dignity. Then, a hand was extended. Not coarse, not taunting, soft. A grey-haired older man bowed silently, picked up the plate, and restored it to its place before her. "Don't pay attention to them," he whispered softly. But even he looked nervously in the direction of the gang of bullies. His act of benevolence was a flash of light in a sea of darkness. Clara was still broken, her hurt intangible but profound. She sat in silence, her hunger lost, her throat constricted with unspoken questions. Why does the world equate kindness with weakness? Why does being different make one vulnerable to be targeted? Time dragged. Every laugh from the bullies pierced more deeply than before. And then, something shifted. A little over an hour later, a noise started to build in the distance. A deep, thunderous growl. Heads were turned toward the diner windows as the noise built, drew near. Seconds later, a score of motorcycles streamed into the parking lot, chrome shining in the sun. Conversations froze in mid-sentence. Forks suspended above plates. The riders sported jackets emblazoned with a name everyone knew, Hell's Angels. Their engines roared like an impending storm. The bullies, just seconds ago brimming with arrogance and swagger, froze. Their laughter caught in their throats as the growl outside dissolved into nothing. Everybody in the diner recognized the name Hell's Angels. They were not merely bikers. They were a badge of strength, loyalty, and fearlessness. The diner bell rang quietly as the door swung open. A giant of a man came in, broad shoulders, thick beard, eyes as cold as steel. His leather jacket, patched and worn, spoke of miles covered and fights won. Another, and another, followed him in, until the diner seemed tiny, the air thick with tension. Clara's pulse pounded. Fear? Perhaps. But there was something else too, a glimmer of awe. The leader's eyes scanned the room, sharp as knives. They rested on the bullies, holding them firm, then went soft when they reached Clara. He didn't have to ask what had occurred. He already knew. With measured steps, he walked over to her table. The ring of his boots on the tile floor echoed before he dropped beside her. For the first time that morning, Clara didn't feel tiny. She felt observed, guarded. The man, whose name was Raw, swiveled to face the boys. His voice, when it emerged, was low, but with the force of thunder. Clara didn't quite hear each word, but she didn't need to. The change in the room was enough. The faces of the bullies went white, their bluster disintegrating like ash. They emerged, one by one, from the booth, silent now, heads down, shame weighing heavily on their shoulders. They couldn't even glance at Clara. As they emerged outside, they were confronted with a chrome and leather wall, the motorcycles parked in line like quiet sentinels. Their embarrassment was complete, but Raw was not yet finished. Turning towards the waitress, he put down a fat bill and said firmly, "Bring her anything she wants. Pancakes, milkshake, pie, the whole menu if she asks." Then he looked back at Clara and said, "You're stronger than any of those cowards who tried to break you." And with that, he did something no one in that diner would ever forget. Raw slipped off his own leather vest, that symbol of brotherhood and belonging, and gently draped it over Clara's shoulders. "You're family now," he said, quietly. Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks, not from pain but from gratitude. In just 1 hour, her morning of humiliation had transformed into a moment of hope. She realized something powerful. Kindness can come from the most unexpected hearts. And sometimes, those who look the fiercest are the ones who protect the gentlest souls. The diner erupted in soft applause. A few people wiped their eyes. The waitress enveloped Clara, telling her that she would never have to sit in that diner and feel invisible again. For the first time in a very long time, Clara felt her heart lift. Yes, cruelty, but so does courage. And sometimes, complete strangers can rewrite the ending of your story. If this video moved you and made you remember that kindness can emerge even in the most unexpected of situations, kindly take a few seconds to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And before we sign off, I have one question for you. Would you have done something if you were in that diner that day? Would you have defended Clara? Leave your response in the comment. Your words could inspire someone else to do the right thing when it counts most.